Okay, in this lesson we're going to cover section 11.1, which is Cartesian coordinates in space, or in 3D as you'll hear me call it, or 3 dimensions. So we're switching from what we've done in past courses where we've been working in the plane, in the XYZ plane, or in 2 dimensions. And now in Calculus 3 we'll be doing things in 3 dimensions. So first let's just start off by making a set of coordinate axes in 3 dimensions. So our axes will look like this, and this will always be the x-axis. And we live in 3 dimensions, of course, but we are, when we're trying to portray 3 dimensions on paper, which is only 2 dimensions, we have to have some other means of doing so. So what we do is we make the x-axis, this basically is supposed to be coming perpendicular to the page and coming directly out of the page at us. But since we can't do that, this is the way we portray that. So that's the x-axis, and then this is our y-axis, and that's our z-axis. And this is the convention that we'll always have. This is the x-axis, that's the y-axis, and this is the z-axis. All right, so our paper now, in the past, our paper would be the xy plane. Now our paper is the YZ plane. So that's when we were working in 2 dimensions. This was the XY plane, the sheet of paper, but now the sheet of paper is the YZ plane, and the x-axis is coming out of the paper directly at us. So let's just make a note of that. So your paper is the YZ plane, and the x-axis is perpendicular to your page. All right, so now let's talk about representing points in 3 dimensions or in space. Each point, which we'll normally use capital letters to represent, so we're going to call this P. We're going to talk about point P. Each point P in space has an X, Y, and Z coordinate. So, for example, I'll make another set of coordinate axes. And say I want to sketch the point. So we'll put a letter out here to name our point something, or we could just use the coordinates. So you oftentimes will see both. You'll see the P along with, I'm going to sketch the point 2, -2, 3, where we still use the natural thing that this is the X coordinate, the Y coordinate, the Z coordinate. So it goes in that natural order. So now, in order to do this, we do it the same way that we did in 2 dimensions, but now we just have 3 different directions in which we can move. So we're going to move 2 units in the X direction. So now I'm going to put some labels on here. Say 1, 2. I'll put a 2 right there. So that means I'm going to go out 2 this way, and then we're going to move -2 units in the Y direction. The axes that we've drawn are the positive axes. So the negative Y direction goes back to the left. So that means we're going to go 2 units to the left. So Just make a little dotted line for the negative y-axis, and we'll say that that's -2 right there. And then we want to go 3 units in the z direction. So 1, 2, we'll say 3 is right here. All right, so now I haven't sketched my point. All I did was label my coordinate axes just enough so that I can sketch my point. So if I went 2 units in the x direction, then I go -2 units in the y direction, and then I go up 3 units in the z direction. So the way we'll do that, we'll sketch this, is you kind of think of sketching a cube when you learn how to sketch a cube as a kid. So we go this way, then we're going to go this same distance 2, but we're going to go that distance of 2 from right here. So when I do that, this dotted line distance is supposed to be the same as that dotted line distance because that's a measure of 2 units. So I'll go right here, and then I'll just sketch up something that's parallel to the x-axis because it should be a little dotted line there. So that's 2 units in the x direction. Then, and I had already gone my -2 units in the y direction. Now I need to go up 3 units in the z direction. So we'll sketch a little dotted line and come up to say about right there, because remember we need to sketch kind of like a cube-like figure. So I'll come up, well, I don't need to sketch the whole thing. I just need to get that, sketch a portion of it to get that point right there. So you may wonder, why didn't I go all the way up here? The reason being is because remember, we've moved out 2 units in the x direction. So if I were all the way, if I were exactly right there aligned with that 3, then the understanding would be that I am actually in the YZ plane, but I'm not in the YZ plane. We've moved over. So if I took a point that was, say right here, and I moved it out in the X direction out of the page, it would come out of the page like this. So what we do to represent that is we kind of slide it down a little bit, because we're saying we're sliding this point right here along the the direction of the x-axis. So that's how we sketch that. Now this is not going to be a big issue for you all, or a point of contention worried about sketching points in the plane. Not in the plane, in the XYZ coordinate system, but I wanted to introduce it to you. You're not going to have to do a whole lot of sketching. We'll do a little bit throughout the course, but it won't be plotting things such as points. So the next thing that we'll talk about, I mentioned plane. We're going to talk about the coordinate planes. I already mentioned that our page is the YZ plane. Let's talk about some other coordinate planes. So coordinate planes, and keep in mind, like I said, that last little example we did was really more getting at labeling the points than actually sketching points in the plane. So let's make another set of coordinate axes here. So our x-axis, our y-axis, and our z-axis. Now, this YZ plane goes on forever, but I'm just going to put a little dotted line there. So this, remember the YZ plane, our page, that would be the YZ plane. So YZ plane. Then down here, this plane down here would be the XY plane. And over here, this plane, and all of these planes, remember, they go on forever. This would be the XZ plane. All right, so those are the 3 coordinate planes. So if we say something's in a coordinate plane, it's in one of those 3 planes, or points in a coordinate plane, it's in one of those 3 planes. Next, we'll talk about the distance between 2 points in 3 dimensions or in space. So given points P with coordinates x, y, z, and Q with coordinates, and we'll use to differentiate from these coordinates, we'll call them x1, y1, and z1. The distance between P and Q is, so we use this notation. It looks like absolute value. This just means that P and Q are given points. That just means the distance between P and Q, or sometimes you'll see a capital D to represent the distance between 2 points, is equal to the square root of the quantity x minus x1 squared plus the quantity y minus y1 squared. Now, if we were stopped right here, that's the distance formula that you all are accustomed to from 2 dimensions. Only difference is now in 3 dimensions is we now add on plus z minus the quantity z minus z1 squared. And that's our distance formula in 3 dimensions. And the next important thing that I'm going to introduce so we'll use this throughout the semester. This will actually not throughout the semester. The first few chapters with this will kind of fade. First couple of chapters, this will kind of fade after a while. But this next equation was going to be important to us throughout the semester. And this, you all have seen an analog of this in 2 dimensions. So the equation of a sphere was center H, comma K, comma L. So these are the coordinates of the center, the x coordinate, the y coordinate, and the z coordinate of the center. And radius A is, so remember, we don't want to just specify that something's a sphere. When we say something's a sphere, we want to talk about where is its center and what is its radius. So just like the analogs, this will be a circle in 2 dimensions. And when we talk about a circle, we oftentimes want to know its center and we want to know its radius. So now the equation for such a sphere is x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared plus z minus l quantity squared equals a squared. All right, so these are a few of the preliminary things from section 11.1. There are some other topics that are discussed in that section, but these are the key things that we're going to address. So I'm going to continue 11.1 in the next video, and what we'll do is we'll just do a couple of examples from that section.